tried to explain myself in an artsy-fartsy way to what I think is limited success. So I wanted to start by telling a story from my childhood and early adulthood. Shortly after being diagnosed with diabetes at age 11, my physician, Dr. Scott, all 4'11" of her, who had gone to school on a track athletic scholarship, told me that the most important thing that I could do to manage my blood sugars, and remember, this is the late 80s. This is, there were optical glucometers. There were no CGMs. There was just regular and NPH. Certainly a survivable disease, but not treatable in the way that it is now in 2024. Dr. Scott said to me that the most important thing that I could do to manage my diabetes is to exercise, and exercise. And because I'm a bit autistic, I listened. And I remember my sister and I started to listen to Michael Jackson and Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical, and exercising. And I don't know what the hell we were doing. We were jumping around like, aerobics people. Well, subsequent to that, my friend Kevin said, "Oh, if you need to exercise, you should do Kung Fu." So somewhere around age 12, I started practicing Kung Fu. The class was 3 times a week for an hour and a half. And for the first year, I only did stance work. For whatever reason, my class was separate, and it was just me and sometimes one other adult and our seafood. And for an hour and a half, we would just practice stances up and down the school. So fast forward a bit, after that first year, I joined the adult class and start to use my hands. But that period of time of just doing stance work had literally and figuratively established a solid foundation. Suffice it to say, I really got into it. I mean, I would practice after coming home from school, and I would practice on the weekends, plus these 3 classes a week. And I would spend, 4 to 6 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, working out, practicing martial arts, stretching, lifting, wall sits, stance work, kicks, punches, forms, all of it. So at one point, at the end of a Wednesday evening class, which must have been pretty late. If I'm remembering, it was like maybe 7:30 to 9. My father is picking me up. Remember, I'm young, 14 maybe, no driver's license. Thankfully I had parents that were kind enough to drive me back and forth and facilitate all of this. But my father usually wasn't the person that did that. So my father is picking me up from Kung Fu class, and my instructor, who did not get to interact with my father that frequently, said to my father, you should really be proud of Noah. He's been doing a really good job and working really hard. And of course, any child, any son, the only reason they're doing anything is to make their parents, their father, proud. So my father says, yeah, he's been wasting his time working out in the basement when he should have been vacuuming the house. Now maybe he's right. I mean, we did have a dog that shed a lot. Vacuuming would have been advantageous. But nonetheless, the message was the efforts that Noah has been putting out are futile, useless, have no value, dismissible. Looking back on that has followed me through my life. But more importantly, the conclusion that I've come to is that sometimes you don't know why you're doing something. Sometimes you don't know why you're doing something. Sometimes you don't need to know why you're doing something. I also believe that our brains have the capacity to calculate probabilistic future events in ways that the cognitive parts of our brain simply cannot understand, are physically incapable of understanding this different form of logic. So after practicing Kung Fu for 6 hours a day, 6 days a week through high school, I go off to college in Boston. And that didn't go so well, but long story short, I'm riding my bicycle in the rain in Boston, and the bicycle goes out from under me. I think I either just simply slipped on the wet roadway or perhaps got caught in the trolley tracks that are embedded in the asphalt. Either way, the bike disappeared from under me, and behind me was an MBTA bus going at a good clip. And now, as the bicycle disappeared underneath me, I was able to basically flying sidekick the front of the bus, push myself off of the bus, off to the side, towards the sidewalk, go into a combat roll, and land on my feet on the sidewalk. The bicycle goes under the tire of the bus and gets tacoed. Bus driver stops. Oh my God, are you okay? Now I had a scuff on my wrist, my elbow, my shoulder, and my left hip from where I had contacted the asphalt, but other than that, I was fine. The bike was a fixer-upper from a dumpster, so it was no big deal. But I wonder, would I have been able to do that if I had spent my afternoons vacuuming the house? Were those 6 hours a day for 6 days a week a waste when my life would have ended on that day underneath that bus? This is part of what I'm talking about trusting in one's convictions. You may not be able to explain it, even to yourself, never mind to someone else. And believe me, if you start to show some sort of joy in whatever it is you're doing, others will go out of their way to try to crush that joy. Don't let the bastards get you down. Follow the strength of your convictions. You don't need to know why, and you don't need to tell anyone else why. Follow the strength of your convictions. You don't need to know why, and you don't need to tell anyone else why.